welcome to the Stanley Street Social Podcast presented by the TAC. The road belongs to us all. I'm joined today by the Cycling Encyclopedia, Matthew Keenan. Welcome, Keno.
Thanks, Alex.
And fresh from a very nice win over in the West, the Melbourne Football Club captain, Max Gawn. Welcome, Max.
I thought I was going to get a run with the first then, with the Cycling Encyclopedia.
The cycling smoky expert. It could actually be a little bit of your territory here, Max.
Have a strength in mediocre Italian sprinters, as we've come to know.
It's not your forte, the Spanish riders, but there is similar aspects to what we saw in. Maybe one of the best performances of the year was Max's top 37 at the Giro, which included a wealth of Italian amateur sprinters.
It did.
I quite enjoyed that top 37 for the Giro, for the GC. Got quite a few mentions in our commentary, Max. It was pretty impressive.
I don't think I've got it in me for the Vuelta. I don't think I could name 37 GC riders that are riding the Vuelta.
That is perfectly reasonable as well.
Yeah.
When you find in the Vuelta, once you get to this point in the season, there are guys that you would normally expect to be contenders for the general classification, that they're emotionally exhausted. And I can imagine from a footy perspective, in seasons past where you haven't been in final contention, round 21 and 22, they're pretty hard to get up for psychologically.
That's the game just gone, obviously fresh off the Perth win. That's just mentally fatigued as I've ever been after a game. We did a 7-week quarantine going into it, Keno, and stuck in a hotel room, and then game day we had to leave the hotel at 1, and the game didn't start till 6, so we had sort of a 5-hour lead into the game. And then the game obviously went for an incredible amount of time, with an extra little half time halfway through the fourth quarter, and I was just genuinely zapped. And then we chucked in the red-eye flight just to give us one on the way out. So hopefully a nice little week in Melbourne here, where I'm back home now and back down the coast, and a little refresher going into the end of the year.
Nice.
Keno, I've heard you've been on the Zwift doing the map off the tour ride.
Yeah, I have. I did stage 2 yesterday, and I had these grand intentions, Alex. It was post homeschooling with the kids, that my lunchtime break, I'd jump on Zwift, I'd do stage 2, and I'd take it really easy. But I got on the start line, there was only 48 other riders on the start line. So it's hard to drift back and find yourself a group. And I wanted some wheels to follow early. I ended up in the lead group. There was 11 riders. And for an hour and a half, I averaged 270 watts. And then up the first climb near the back end, I ended up getting dagged, and there was 4 guys out in front of me. And then there was a guy from Sweden. He and I were kind of working turns leading into the last climb. And he's laid off me, and he's attacked me at 8.4 watts per kilo going to the bottom of the last climb. I'm like, Sven, I've got nothing left anyway. I'm done. Just let me ride with you to the bottom of the climb. And so as a result of that, I got a little bit angry, and I congratulated all the blokes in front of him for how well they'd climbed.
I've worked out pretty quickly on Zwift, Keno. If you're averaging 270 for an hour and a half, I would have needed to average 600 to be in that group.
What are you weighing in at on Zwift, Max, relative to your normal weight?
No, I rode in 110. I thought you had to be trustworthy on Zwift, but
you do.
I'm starting to realise that majority of other people I ride with are either professional cyclists or they've lied about their weight.
Yeah, there's a lot of blokes about 6'4" that end up weighing about 53 kilograms.
Ken, have you got that kit now, the map kit in game? I've heard.
No, I think I've got when you're doing the off the map tour, you're in the kit, you're in the map kit, and it looks really cool. I like it.
Yeah, good. Fantastic.
Yeah.
The Vuelta, Max, how do you feel about the Vuelta? Back end of the year, 3rd Grand Tour. How are you feeling coming into it?
I must say I've had a little rest from cycling. I watched the Olympics, obviously, like majority of us did, with the road race and the TT, and even some of the track cycling was really good as well. But I haven't really been taking notice of what's been happening over in Europe too much. I'm starting to get a little bit back with the Tour of Poland and Denmark and Norway and whatnot going on at the moment. So I think I'm gearing into a really good Vuelta. It's an exciting battle. Ineos are going again with this amazingly strong team to try and take out a Slovenian, and I wonder if they can do it.
It was a massive block, the tour into the Olympics, both road and then track, and I've been a bit the same, but starting to pick it back up this week. Keno, we're gonna go top to tail of the start list. Run through each team. Couple of tips, thoughts along the way.
You lead us through, and we'll share our thoughts.
Just quickly, Keno, just your thoughts. Did a podcast yesterday with Jason Bartram, the former women's TP coach on the Olympics. Look back on the Olympics. Did you tune into the track much?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I thought it was a really tough campaign for the Australian team. And from the outside, and this is only from the outside, it looked like for the last couple of years, there was a culture of a fear of being cut rather than a culture of a belief that the athletes were being supported. And it's noteworthy that Simon Jones, the head of the high performance team, he's already announced his resignation. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Oz Cycling do in the next phase. So what's the funding model as well? I think the funding model, it needs to look at where is the participation? What is the area of the sport that is going to draw more people in? Logan Martin, I'm sure he didn't get anywhere near as much funding as what we saw with our team's pursuit squad. And Logan Martin has come away with an Olympic Games gold medal. We saw Beck and Dan McConnell in the mountain biking. They didn't perform to what their normal standards. They both had bad days. But the participation levels in mountain biking are huge. And that's great for the community if we can get more people riding bikes. So I think we need to look beyond just Olympic Games gold medals as the definition of success.
Yep. To the Vuelta.
Yeah.
We're also going early too. Back to our roots of going early. We haven't got a full start list. So we're starting off with Israel Startup Nation, which currently has a team sheet of 5 on the start list. Notably, Seb Berwick on the start list, which is good for Oz.
Yeah, so finally, Israel Startup Nation actually invest in the future rather than just investing in the past. Most of the riders that have got results for them so far have been 34, 35 plus years of age. Dan Martin, Michael Woods, they've been the guys to get results. Daryl Impey and all the publicity around Chris Froome. Those guys aren't on the start list here. But Seb Berwick, I don't think he can do anything in the general classification, but this guy can seriously climb. At the start of last season, he went toe-to-toe with Jai Hindley up Mount Buller in the Herald Sun Tour. Jai went on to finish second at the Giro d'Italia at the end of last season. With 7 mountaintop finishes and 6 other medium mountain stages, there's plenty of opportunities for Seb Berwick to get into a breakaway. And even if he doesn't win a stage, just get into the breakaway that ends up winning the stage. He's got a 3-year deal with the Israel Startup Nation. They believe in him. They're investing in for the long term. Let's see him get in a break.
How's that for an opening little spill, Corny?
I must say, I don't have much to add on Israel Cycling Nation.
Should we just take it in terms of reading out the names and then just pass into Keno?
I will try and go toe to toe in some of the teams. Israel is not my strong point. No token Israeli rider this time. At the moment, no, there is Guy Niv. Sorry, as Alex said at the start, Keno, we go early because everyone does a preview. So we do like the Tom Brown type approach. We go early with no real statistics or anything stuck in cement. And we just get it out there and see how it goes.
Mike, when Tom Brown comes on the news, my kids always go, Tom Brown, Tom Brown.
Oh.
Very good. Right, next up.
AG2R Citroën, headed up by Jeffrey Bouchard.
Yeah. I think they've got a bit of a chance with Clement Venturini for one of the stages where Kayla Bjorn is going to be a contender. He's a reasonably good sprinter, but they're a team with a guy like Michael Chirel, who is perennial, get in a breakaway, can finish in the top 20, but has not won a significant bike race in his career. They've got to go looking for breakaways, but they've already had a fantastic season. For a team like AG2R to have won a stage in the Tour and finish in 4th position overall, there is no pressure on them at all.
I'm a big Clement Champoussin. Is that how I would say it, Keno?
Champoisson.
Champoisson. I'm a big fan. I had him in my top 37 leading into the Giro. It let me down a little bit, but he's a young French rider with a lot of talent.
I agree with that.
Could potentially be the one that sticks around with the GC group on the 2nd and 3rd weeks.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Just before we rip into it too much, are you calling it, Keno? Has SBS got it?
Yeah, we've got it. So it's David McKenzie and myself doing the commentary. Robbie McEwen can't travel because of COVID, and he's due for a knee reconstruction because he did his ACL in a mountain bike crash up in Sydney. And Bridie's got too many other work commitments. So it's Macca and I who are doing the commentary.
There's no no cross to Mark Renshaw in front of the put Renshaw cycling in the backdrop.
Perfect. Almost up there with Robbie's Grand Fondo, which he just slides in at every opportunity.
UAE Emirates, I believe it's been announced that the Pog's not. There was a rumor going around for a minute that he might be going to Vuelta. He's not going to the Vuelta.
No, he's not.
He's wrapped it up.
Yeah.
In the meantime, they've been spending a bucket load of cash to stack their lineup for 2022, with some big names going there. But in terms of the Vuelta, Trenton heading up their squad.
They're stage hunting. Max, what do you think of the 2027, the contract for Tadej Pogacar through to 2027 before we assess their team here? That's a long contract for anybody.
Yeah, it's Christian Petrarca-esque. In football world, it's more common. I dare say Cripps from your team might be on something that long as well. Football world, a little bit more common. Cycling world, very uncommon. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. I'm a big Pog fan. I could probably win the next 7 tours if you wanted to. But they've gone back to UAE pre-Pog with a real stage-winning team.
Yeah,
they're I reckon all 7 riders that I'm looking at already before the team sheets are out. They all could win a stage.
Yeah, and a bit like AG Tour, the pressure's off. There's nobody in there who is under huge pressure because they've ridden brilliantly at the Tour de France. They've won multiple stages. They've won the general classification, and they can come here hunting stages. And a guy like Rafael Majka, he was outstanding at the Tour de France. He's been a former stage winner at the Tour, and he's won the King of the Mountains classification there. He can do whatever he likes.
If Kayla doesn't get to the 2nd and 3rd weeks, which we're not sure what will happen there, it's Ryan Gibbons suits a Volta sprint as well.
Yeah, he does. I'm looking forward to our chat about Kayla Bjorn and seeing if Alex has got any insights for us. So I've got my view.
I've been on to Alex Keno, who's trying to obviously go big in the cycling journalism world. He just doesn't go hard at Caleb. He just keeps him there, doesn't go the hard hitting questions.
Well, I also don't go hard at the next athlete we're probably going to talk about heading up Team Bike Exchange is Lucas Hamilton, coming off a disappointing tour, off the mark, crashed out in unfortunate circumstances. But a big year,
a bit like Mark Stevens going to cover the Bulldogs, Max.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
I can talk freely about pretty much everyone else.
Come on, Alex. What are your expectations of Lucas in this Vuelta after what was a disappointing tour?
Well, I've heard that. So first of all, I think just that he's had a massive year. So he had talking to him after the tour, it was like there was so much pressure to be good in those lead up races that he spent all his bickies way too early. So I don't know having never done a tour or half Tour de France, then backed up for another one after doing all those stage races in the lead up. Can you have good legs? Is it possible? He also did the Olympics, so he's done a little trip to Tokyo. So I think it's a massive year. I don't know that he can ride GC, but I think he'd fancy himself on a couple of the seems like 21 uphill finishes that we have at this year's Vuelta.
22 out of 21 stages.
Yeah.
I think the challenge is, Max, which you'd be able to address better than I would, is the mental fatigue for any athlete. And it doesn't matter what the sport is, to try and pick yourself back up again.
Yeah, correct. And I probably touched on what I said earlier with how fatiguing it can get towards the end of the year with big long drags. And I'm sure he's gone through some sort of quarantine at some point as well. Definitely in Tokyo, although they were only there for 2 or 3 days, but he would have gone through something like that, so that would have been fatiguing. The Bike Exchange, the early names, it's their best 6 riders on their list, so they're sort of going for broke. They're trying to get something out of this last grand tour. It'll be interesting to see how they go. I reckon Rob Stannard suits again a Volta sprint at some point, but he's got Michael Matthews there. It's an interesting team.
The interesting thing about
I don't have high expectations
with this Vuelta. Look, it seems like there's not much in between. as in there's not much Rob Stannard-esque unless Caleb gets hooped early. It seems like we're going uphill like in a ridiculous manner, or where Caleb's going to be there. But what I do like Damien Housen being there.
Yeah.
I think
I'd like to see him win a stage.
He's riding well.
Yeah, I agree.
He's been riding well. I would have liked to see him at Tour, but didn't make the selection. But yeah, I don't mind Damo for a stage win.
Yeah.
I dare say he's the last one in the hills if Lucas is going well over Esteban and Mikel.
Yeah, potentially. Mikel, but he's just on the start list for every single race that Bike Exchange are in.
Yes.
Bike Exchange have also only got 2 wins this year, 2 World Tour wins.
They've had a tough year. They had a good Giro. Everything else has been disappointing.
So
it needs a refresh.
You would
After
hope
they're finished with the review at Carlton, they can send them down a Bike Exchange.
If they did a best and fairest at the end of the year, I'm giving it to Jules Jensen.
Yeah, definitely. And he's captain morale on the team bus as well, which is important. Yeah. Okay, next up.
Intermarché Wanty.
They've got their 3 names there.
Yeah, but they've had a really good year with the stage win at the Giro d'Italia. They were pretty active at the Tour de France. They've got Louis Meintjes is a guy who's finished twice 8th at the Tour de France. He's been a top 10 previously at the Vuelta. He was pretty solid at the Tour this year. Rein Taramay has been a stage winner previously at the Vuelta d'Espanya as well. And they can go stage hunting. Even though they're a World Tour team, they will race it like they're a wildcard team. And they'll look for lots of breakaways, that squad.
Was Rein Taramay the rider at the Giro was a couple of seconds behind the Hungarian that was leading?
Yeah, I can't remember this year.
I can't remember that either.
But he's been a winner of the white jersey in the past at the Tour de France. Like he was this big hope early on in his career. He spent a long time with the Cofidis team, and this year in the Giro, he was reasonable early. He ended up finishing sort of like around 50th in the general classification, something like that.
Astana Premier Tech. Astana Premier Tech for a little bit longer. Lost their title sponsor this week. Interesting squad. And they're also losing Vlasov is heading off to Bora next year. So there's a bit going on at this squad. And the man is gone. The main man is out.
Wow, is he? Now that Premier Tech's gone, Vinokurov will be back.
He'll be back?
Yeah. He's Alexander Vinokurov. It could be a nuclear explosion, right? The planet has been cleared of every living animal. Vinokurov will be the last thing that walks away. The ability to survive is phenomenal. And
is there much longevity in that sponsorship from Astana, from the Kazakh government through the wealth? Like, is that just however long you want, or?
Well, it's been around since 2007. And Vinokurov won the time trial in Albi in the Tour de France, and then he blew the test tube and did a 2-year suspension. Cadel ended up getting the victory in that individual time trial. Then he came back and he allegedly bought Liège-Bastogne-Liège, although then that got cleared in the Court of Arbitration for Sport or wherever it was. And then he went to the Olympics, and it was a strange sprint between him and Rigoberto Urán. He won the gold medal there as well. And he comes back as managing the team. He leaves the team. He's back managing the team. And then he left the team before the Tour de France. Vinokurov will be back.
What's on the squad, Maxi?
It's Bike Exchange-esque. I don't think they've had the year they've wanted to. And they've just loaded up with their A team. And I sensed that they lost a bit of trust in Vlasov. With the amount of moves they were making, it was at the Giro. I'm pretty sure it was the Giro. The amount of moves they were making for Vlasov, and he just couldn't hold wheels with Caruso and help me out with the Ineos rider Bernal.
Yeah.
So I reckon they go for stage wins. Arambu, who did it every time. I knew you were a tipping man throughout the tour. Keenan got them all horribly wrong. Every time someone would go into a stage, they'd tip me this Alex Arambu.
Yeah,
he didn't do much, did he?
No. He was the stage failure, disappointment, day in, day out. I think Vlasov will ride for the general classification because when he goes to UAE next year, he's going to have limited opportunities. He finished 4th at the Giro d'Italia. And I think he'll try and go out swinging. I think he'll ride for the GC. And I think he can do a similar performance to what he did at the Giro. And I think he'll go top 5. I think.
Okay.
All right. Next
Team
up.
Jumbo Visma.
This is Max's team. I'm leaving this to you, Max.
This is the big question after Rog torched the Olympic time trial.
That was something to watch, wasn't it? Especially just going and seeing what Garner's done on the track now. Garner was in incredible form. And Roglic's gone and done that to him.
Yeah. It shows how hard the course was for him to beat Filippo Ganna like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Rowan's ride was unbelievable as well.
Yeah. I was rapt for him to get the bronze medal. But what about the resilience of Primoz Roglic? So last year, losing the yellow jersey the day before Paris, he bounces back, he wins Liège, Bastogne-Liège, and he wins the Vuelta. This year, he builds everything around the Tour. He crashes out in the first week, and he comes back and he wins the Olympic Games. I don't think you're going to find many athletes that have got more resilience in any sport anywhere on the planet than Primoz Roglic.
Yeah, we spoke to Cadell not long ago, and he is a massive admirer of Primoz. And we know what sort of values Cadell has, both in himself and his peers, and you sense that Primoz would be all about those values as well.
Yeah.
So it makes me like him even more. This team, it's stacked with some domestiques for him. I mean, I was a big fan of their team for the Tour as well. But I mean, Hessing, Kruijswijk, Bowman, Kuss, and Sam Oomen can all potentially ride GC themselves. So it's going to be a tough team Ineos and Jumbo, it's going to be a great battle.
Yeah, it's a really good team. And I love any race where Nathan van Hooijdonk rides, because his uncle, Edwig van Hooijdonk, was one of my childhood heroes. And Edwig van Hooijdonk, he won the Tour of Flanders in 89 and 91. And Nathan is the son of Edwig van Hooijdonk's brother, who was a pro, but nowhere near as good. And each time I get to commentate on the name Van Hooijdonk, I think of that time where I fell in love with the sport, and I used to watch his uncle on videos that were about 3 months old from when he won the Tour of Flanders a couple of times.
Is he the Luke Rowe, Tony Martin? Is he just going to sit at the front of the group?
Oh, he's also the guy that can get himself ejected from the race.
Yep.
Because he's a little hot-headed. He got kicked out of the Tour of Belgium a couple of years ago riding for the national team when he almost took a swing at the neutral service that he wasn't happy with.
So he's Jumbo's Gianni Moscon.
Yeah, without the racial slurs.
Okay, yep. I've got Primoz on top, and I'm sure you do as well, Keno. So
yeah, I do actually.
It's a pretty strong team.
Yeah.
Yep. Couple of time trials in there as well, just to play to his strengths.
Yeah.
Bora Hansgrove.
Oh, haven't they been on a recruitment drive? They have hired just about everybody in the peloton who can finish 5th in a Grand Tour. That's them for next season. Max Schachmann and Felix Gross-Schattner will be guys looking for stage victories from that team.
You don't reckon Schachmann will try and hold on?
I think it's too much. I think these climbs are too steep in Spain.
Yeah.
The more gradual climbs of the Tour suit him a bit better, but these Spanish climbs are short and super steep. I think they're a bit too much for Max Schachmann, who I like to refer to as bobblehead. He gets going like the head just wobble. He's a ripper, Max Schachmann, but I think these climbs are too tough for him.
Underwhelming team outside of those two.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Was Ackerman in there until, or was he never in the mixer?
I can't remember him ever being on the long list for them.
Bahrain victorious. Talking about stacked squads.
Skipped one. He skipped EF Education.
I got Bahrain next in my list.
Have you? Okay. We'll do Bahrain then. We'll do Bahrain.
Go Bahrain. They're a stacked squad.
Yeah. They can win it.
Yeah, I've been harsh by just saying Ineos and Jumbo. It's a 3-man sort of lead, 3-team lead. Like I'm not sure about you, Keno, but Bahrain have been my highlight of the year.
Yeah, and any team that changes its name to include the word victorious. I mean, how nervous were the sports directors until they at least started to get a few victories early in the year? I saw a good interview with Roger Hammond, who's pretty humble sort of a guy. He's one of the sports directors, and he said he just breathed a massive sigh of relief when they got a win in February with the new name, Bahrain Victorious. But You've spoken to Jack Haig recently. I haven't listened to the interview yet with Jack Haig. It's on my list. How's he feeling coming into the Vuelta?
I don't know how he's feeling, but when I was talking to him, it was a week after the Tour de France, and he had a 2.5-hour surgery on his collarbone. And he tells a story in the podcast where he had a Spanish surgeon, so he didn't quite understand what he was talking about, but he was talking about some kind of bone bank or something. And he said that his collarbone was so smashed up that they had to have like a bone inventory of stock on hand, and they have to weld it pretty much back together. So he's got plates and whatnot galore in his collarbone. But he's the guy that did Egan Bernal's collarbone, so he had confidence that he's in good hands.
I must say, I wasn't expecting him, after listening to that, to be on the Volta team sheet, Alex. It was sounding pretty grim for him.
Although Gordy Hagee is like he's an animal in terms of like, if he wants to do something, he will do everything in his manner to make it happen.
This is the most confusing team at the same time, though. So Landa was looking good. Giro crashed. He's got all right to be their GC man, and Hagen Caruso to ride for him, and I'm happy with that. But Gino made Mark Padua, Wout Poels, and Tratnik could do whatever they want. Tratnik was the man of the Olympics. Yeah,
he was awesome. We've got Gino Mader. He can win stages, and we've seen him do that already in Grand Tours. Mark Padun was super disappointed he didn't get a start in the Tour after winning back-to-back stages in the Dauphiné. Wout Poels is the one that you can rely on because he did a fantastic job throughout his time at Team Sky, supporting Chris Froome. And Caruso on the back of his second-place finish at the Giro d'Italia, where he was meant to be working for Mikel Landa. This team on paper is almost as strong as Jumbo-Visma.
If not almost stronger.
Yeah.
Hagee talks about post like that week when we were talking to him, he was absolutely gutted because he was in the best nick he's ever been in his life come stage 3 of the Tour de France. Like he was like, I was flying.
I'm really disappointed Cole Braley's not there just to lighten up the intermediate sprints as well.
Yeah. Love it.
Team class looks good though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't get started on team class.
So just to clarify, Landa's the leader?
Yeah, absolutely the leader.
It's very easy for Caruso to go back and be a domestique. Hagee's the one. If Hagee's going really well, they might have to make a decision at some point.
What I love about Mikel Landa is we've been talking about Mikel Landa is this great hope. He's like, the great wide hope in the heavyweight boxing category. But, he's Damiano Caruso's second place finish at the Giro is higher than Landa has ever finished at a Grand Tour. Yet we just keep talking about Mikel Landa as the guy who can win. But guess what? I reckon Mikel Landa's their leader and he's a guy who can win.
Judging how well the team's going, Landa must be in the best form he's been in.
Yeah. If you win the training camp with them, you're going really well.
EF Education Nippo, we haven't got a full list, but according to Pro Cycling Stats, Rigo's on there and Hugh Carthy's on there.
Yeah. So I think that they'll be riding for Hugh Carthy rather than Rigoberto Urán because Rigo was cooked at the end of the Tour. Hugh Carthy finished 8th at the Giro this year. He was 3rd overall at the Vuelta last year. He loves Spain. He won a stage of the Vuelta Burgos, started his pro career with Caja, the Spanish team that is based out of Pamplona. And I think this is Hugh Carthy's team to lead.
I agree with that. Although Rigo did pull out some sort of individual time trial in the Olympics while being cooked.
I know. So discount everything I said. But what I love about Rigoberto Urán is he makes life fun. And Esteban Chaves is changing teams and going across to EF. He's going to love hanging out with Rigoberto Urán. And how can you not have fun with somebody who looks like the love child of Mick Jagger?
Hugh Carthy's in the same book to me as Landa. I've been talking about him for a while, and I'm sure if you're any sort of English commentator would have been talking about him for a lot more than us, and they'd just be wanting to do something this Volta, I reckon.
Yeah, don't think, do.
Trek Segafredo, you'd expect nothing less than what they've got on their team sheet here. Quinn Simmons, though, off the back of a win and a contract extension after a controversial start to his neo-pro career.
Yeah.
I was hoping for my Italian mediocre sprinter, Matteo Marchetti, but I'm slightly disappointed in that.
We have highlighted his strengths, though, Max, and they probably don't sit at the Vuelta.
I stand by, Keno, that Matteo Marchetti is the worst climber in the peloton.
You're going to have to work pretty hard to find somebody to argue with you. I think this team will have a similar strategy to what they had at the Tour de France, where they went looking for a stage win, and at the Tour, they got it with Bauke Mollema. I'm always curious about Gianluca Brambilla. It was in the Vuelta, I think it was 2014 or 2015, where Brambilla got the nickname Boxing Brambilla, because he and Ivan Rovny was riding for the Tinkoff team. They started swinging at each other whilst on the bike, and they both got expelled from the race. So I ended up calling Ivan Rovny, Rampaging Rovny, and Gianluca Brambilla from that day forward as being Boxing Brambilla.
He had some issues with George Bennett at the Giro, didn't he?
Oh, he's kind of like Nasser Bouhanni, like really calm. I'm a changed man. I'm calm. What are you doing that for? Let's get started.
Do you think Ciccone can back up his Giro?
No, I don't. Yeah.
Doesn't have that home ground advantage.
Yeah, I don't think he can. Yeah. There's some riders where they just, they perform really well on home soil. It was interesting. We'll get to him soon, Romain Bardet. His win recently was the first victory he's ever had outside of France. And the guy's finished on the podium at the Tour de France twice. And it's taken him until now to win a race not in France.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. You see it especially with the Americans that dominate on home turf. You take them to Europe and it's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah.
Nibble is there.
Yeah.
Not the Vince, not Vincenzo, but his younger
Antonio.
bro. Has Nibble announced where he's going next year? Or is he retiring?
He can't be too far away from retirement. But he might be seeking some superannuation somewhere for another season.
Dakota Quickstep been in the news a bit for some probably the wrong reasons.
Yep.
Bennett's gone. Patrick's maybe losing his mind a little bit in the way that he communicates, or he's lost his mind in the way that he communicates in to the press. And an interesting squad that they've stacked up here for the Vuelta.
But first,
if that's Simon Goodwin, Keno, he's got sacked.
Yeah. I was about to ask you.
Forever, not just sacked.
Patrick Lefebvre's comments about, equating Sam Bennett going back to Bora being the equivalent to a woman going back to a situation of domestic violence is an outrageous comment to make. And it wasn't just an off-the-cuff comment. It was something that he wrote. So he had time to actually think about it. Yeah. I mean, what does that do for a team environment, Max?
Surely, I'm sure our sponsors would have all jumped off if I've said that. And the fact that the sponsors are still backing in Patrick is an interesting one. But yeah, the team environment, the way he talks about Bennett the last 2 months, even for a guy leaving, I'm trying to think of an example of someone who's left us recently. Let's run with Oscar McDonald, who went to Carlton. Yep. Let's just say if Simon was just potting him in the media, it'd just be distasteful because he's got friends within the team. And so I'm presuming there's some sort of disharmony there. There has to be. Not everyone hated Sam Bennett.
No, Sam Bennett's a good guy. And it's proven that he's actually got a genuine knee injury and now he needs the rest of the season off. And then in addition to that, we see what's happened with the New Zealand cyclists just recently, sadly passed away at the age of 24, Simone Biles at the Olympics, Naomi Osaka, and the need to actually be a bit more considerate around mental health.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. I think sports stars are in the limelight for doing it because it's such a minority within the sport, but it's such in society, it's such a big thing. But in sport, in terms of the amount of people that talk about it and openly take a step back and say, I'm struggling with mental health, it's such a minority. So the limelight just gets smashed on people like Naomi Osaka. There's guys within football that have had some time off and the limelight just goes straight to them.
Yeah, it's really brave, I think, to come out, but it's also really important because of the focus that it gets to help those people that aren't in a position where they get all that focus. They can actually say, okay, well, if that person is doing it in a high profile position, I can put my hand up as well. So Patrick Lefevre, if I ever say anything positive about the Koenig Quickstep as a team, it's despite the team manager, Patrick Lefevre.
Correct.
And also, wind back the clock 12 months, I would have almost said that was their asset, that Patrick was so behind every single rider in the team. And even if you didn't agree with what they did or the performance that they delivered to the public-facing media and whatnot, he was all about the team. And I think this could be the cracks of maybe the team that had the strongest culture, potentially coming unstuck.
But on the team, so taking him out of it, I would love to see Fabio Jakobsen win a stage after the horrific crash that he had in Poland last year, and watch for Mauri van Sevenant. So his dad, Wim, was the Lanterne Rouge 2 or 3 times at the Tour de France, and he was one of Robbie McEwen's key support men. Well, Mauri van Sevenant is nothing like his dad. He's a fantastic climber, and he's named after the winner of the 1991 Volta a España, Melchor Mauri. That's where his first name comes from the winner of the Vuelta in 91. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him in action.
And James Knox finally gets to ride for himself, I think.
You think? Yes. So does he. He thinks.
I'm intrigued to see if he can sit in the GC group for a little bit.
Yeah. Whenever I see his name, I always think of Dr. Zeus.
I do too now.
Fox in socks, sir.
Ineos Grenadiers, another stacked lineup.
All right. Alex, who's carrying the water bottles?
Yeah.
So we've got Bernal, Carapaz, Narvaez, Pidcock, Puccio, Sivakov, who can win a Grand Tour, Van Baal, and Adam Yates.
How good was Pidcock in the mountain bike?
That's
outrageous. Imagine
the cost of salaries on this squad that they are sending just to the Vuelta.
They break the salary cap, Max.
It's crazy money. I reckon the Ecuadorians team up and Bernal gets lost within it. I reckon they'll end up riding for Carapaz.
He's half a chance. That's how he won the Giro when he was on the Movistar team and they were meant to be working for Landa. He just snuck up the road in the first week.
Adam Yates was talking big game going into the Olympics. Didn't look as good as what we thought he might. And then they've got their 2 brutes in Salvatore and Van Baal. So they've got 6 riders for the climbs. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, my only question mark over Egan Bernal is the impact of the coronavirus. So he had coronavirus after the Giro d'Italia, and we don't know what the actual impacts of that are. He rode the Volta Burgos recently. He finished in 38th position overall there. Showed himself on the last stage, finishing in 4th. So it looks like he'll be okay, but we don't know the long-term effects of COVID. It's different for various athletes. But, I mean, that team is bonkers how strong it is. There's got 4 guys there who could be the leader of any other team.
If that's their tour, they hang around a little bit longer with the with Pog. Rog crashed out, but
yeah. On that, I want the tour next year. I want Bernal tour. I want the Pog and the Rog. I want to see those 3 going head to head, and Jonas Vingegaard at the tour. Who's the leader at Jumbo Visma next year?
I want that Ineos team right there, that exact team, to go to the tour next year.
Yep, I'll sign up for that.
We've talked about this before. Is Egan the only one that can take it to the Slovenians? No,
Jonas Vingegaard can, because you look at the Tour de France from this year. You take it from the morning of the stage, Mont Ventoux, through to the finish line in Paris. Jonas Vingegaard was 12 seconds faster than Tadej Pogacar for the last 11 stages. He took all that time in the first week, and Jonas went in as the first-time rider of the Tour de France, and he wasn't going in there as the protected rider. He did his own thing on stage 4. When Roglic crashed, they said, you just stay in the front just in case. We'll see what happens later in the race. It was a breakout performance. Do not underestimate the fishmonger.
Team Movistar, the home team on home turf.
This is our favourite topic, Keenan.
This is
Go. All right, I'll sit back.
Just waiting. It's like season 3 is going to be great. I can't wait. Some of their stuff on the Giro and the Tour was quite comical.
Yeah.
I actually like Enric Mas as a rider. He's pretty consistent. Mark Soler's getting lost. He's going somewhere. In the UAE?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for more opportunities. To do what?
He won't be well liked in UAE, I'll give you the
Oh,
my. Miguel Angel Lopez, unfortunately, looked horrible at the Tour de France. May have
got to do something.
A couple times. I think he's lost that nickname for mine, Keenan.
Yeah, so he's their big recruit, Max. He's their big recruit, Lopez. He's got to do something at the Vuelta.
But it is stacked. Valverde is his last Grand Tour, last race.
41 years of age. So he first won a stage at the Vuelta 18 years ago.
That's crazy.
What were you doing 18 years ago?
What the hell am I now? 30. I was probably just getting over that Y2K wasn't a thing.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So he won a stage, and that was his second participation in the race.
So if Lopez or Mas lose time early, they'll go 2 weeks trying to get Valverde a stage win.
Yeah. If Valverde wins a stage, the Movistar sponsors will be happy.
Correct.
I think that Enric Mas, after finishing 6th at the Tour, I don't think he can back up. He doesn't seem like he's got a really robust body, like that real physical resilience to do 2 really strong performances in a Grand Tour. I could be proven wrong, but I don't think that he does. I hope that Lopez is their man for the general classification and Valverde will be on the stage hunt.
It's one less leader than they normally take in. Normally they take in four leaders and just hope for the best. So maybe they got a little bit more structured this time.
Shotgun effect.
Kayla Bjorn, Lotto Soudal. Is he the only red hot sprinter that's coming?
Jakobsen is the other one from Deceuninck Quickstep with a good lead out. Yeah. And okay, so Caleb, Alex? Okay, no Mark Stevens going down to the kennel. What are your expectations of Kayla Bjorn?
Well, I think I looked through and there's probably 3, maybe 4 sprint stages
in the first week.
Well, is there? Am I missing?
There's 3 in the first week. There's 3
in the first week.
Yeah.
Well, I think he needs to win 3. I think he needs to win big. Well, we were talking about at the Tour de France. We were talking about him winning 4, 5 stages. I think he needs to win big. He signed a 2-year deal. The team's backed him in. I don't think he would be expecting to win a bucket load here.
All right, Max.
I was hooked by him with his confidence when we were talking to him. We asked him if he would be able to beat Cav, and he didn't even think that was a question. So I like his confidence. He doesn't really have much of a field, but the Volta sprints, they're messier, and he doesn't have that. He doesn't rely on a lead out, Caleb. So he might not be able to get in the best positions for all of them. He'll win 1. But I don't think he's got the Cav win 5 because Quickstep just get to the right spots.
Yeah. Okay, so here are my expectations of him. This is what I think. Because he was out of the Giro so early because of the knee issue, and then he was out of the Tour on stage 3 because of the crash, he has to finish. He has to make it to Santiago de Compostela. He has to do the pilgrimage all the way through to the end. He needs the 3-week race in his system. They've changed the points classification. Previously in the Vuelta, the points were the same for every stage. Whether you won a mountain stage or a flat stage, it was the same amount of points. So more often than not, somebody inside the top 5 overall will win the points classification. 2011, Volker Mollema won the points classification. That's how ridiculous it was. They've changed it this year to be the same format as the Tour de France. So it's 50 points on a pure sprint stage, 30 points for a medium mountain stage, 20 to win in the high mountains. I think Kayla Bjorn wins 3 stages. He makes it to the finish and he wins the points classification. And he just reminds everybody that he's the top dog of world sprinting.
Don't you wish that, sorry, but it seemed like Mollema was going for the points jersey in the Giro as well. He was in every single break.
Yeah. I love Volker Mollema. Book Mollema, the ambassador for Book Week in the Netherlands. He's a ripper.
I'd love nothing more. It's a very Australian flavour, this Volta, and I'd love nothing more for Caleb to absolutely dominate. They've taken one backup domestique this time, just in case Caleb crashes out.
Just
Harm Van Hook, who can hang on to a GC group. He's their backup. The rest are all seeming to be there for Caleb.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is important to note that he needs his lead out team to deliver and him to be on the back of it, just to continue to build that trust. I don't think that's ever been established at this squad, is that every win that he gets, he's delivered, but he's not getting any Koenig quick step wins. Jasper Philipsen every now and then hits it on the head, but I don't think it's consistent enough, and he doesn't have 100% trust in his lead out. I think that's the next step for him as well. So that'll play a big role here.
Slightly disappointed Harry Sweeney, who's gone to Norway. I would have thought he had done enough to potentially get another chance at riding the Grand Tour here, because he's obviously fit to be able to ride him up in Norway at the moment.
I like that they haven't taken him. They're protecting him from himself.
Okay.
First year in the pro peloton. Yeah.
Keno, we're going to be looking to you for the next couple of squads.
No worries.
Burgos BH.
Yep. Okay. So Angel Madrozo, he won a stage in 2019. It was a mountaintop finish, and he was in a breakaway of 3. He was dropped 4 times from that breakaway, and he ended up winning the stage. And when he got on the podium, he said, "Fantastic! I'm going to buy my kids a new Nintendo," because he's a bit of a gamer. So he was pretty happy to be. And then Sony ended up coming to the start line the next day, and they gave him the Sony PlayStation or whatever it is. I'm not quite up to speed with those things. So they gave him the Sony console and a couple for his kids. And Jetsabol, the Dutch guy who's on that team, he's married to a Mexican, and he speaks fluent Spanish. And he was second on that stage to Madrozo when he won. And Angel Madrozo used to ride for the Movistar team. And he looks a little bit like a Liberian. He's got like these Coke bottle thick glasses, and he has to wear contact lenses when he races. And they've also got Danny Navarro, who's confirmed. He was one of the right-hand men for Alberto Contador for a long time. He'd be at the back end of his career, he'd be about 38 years of age now. He won a stage at the Vuelta maybe 6 years ago, riding for the Cofidis team. And everyone on the Burgos BH team, they'll be aiming for breakaways. And particularly given that the race starts in Burgos, it kicks off with an individual time trial celebrating the 800th anniversary of the beautiful cathedral in Burgos. But from that moment on, this team is looking for breaks, and they can win a stage.
Was that off the top of your head?
Yeah.
Nice.
I've got doubts with you in the next one.
Have you?
Yeah, I do.
Why would you do that?
So I knew Navarro and Bowl as well. Let's see how we go on. I can't even say this team name.
Kaja Haral. Well, we're talking about it before. Hugh Carthy came from the squad. Also, Nick Schultz did a year or 2 here as well.
Yeah, so he did. And there's been 2 famous Australians who've had a stint at that team. So Neil Stevens rode for that team in the early 90s, and in the late 80s, Stephen Hodge rode for this team. This team has been around since the mid-1980s. It's based in Pamplona, the Running of the Bulls. That's in the same town, its headquarters, as the Movistar team. And they've been there together for a long, long time. So it's a team that is going hunting for a stage victory. They've got Jonathan Lastra on the team, who got second in a stage 3 years ago, or 2 years ago. They've got, they'd be just looking for the breakaway stage victory. They used to have Enric Mas. Lewis Mas used to be on the team, and he led the King of the Mountains classification for them for a long time. He battled with Simon Clark the year that Simon Clark won the King of the Mountains classification. So they'll be looking in the first couple of stages where there's a few hills to try and get the King of the Mountains jersey early. They'll be looking for the most combative prize, because the most combative prize in the Vuelta is done differently. It is a jury nominates a few riders, and then it's a voting system via the Spanish television. So if you're in the breakaway and you're not Spanish, you don't have much chance of getting the most combative prize.
These semi-pro teams normally have their teams out first. I find that quite interesting that they're not.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Come late.
So they'll be looking for the breaks, quite obviously, but they can win a stage. They're a team that's been around for a long, long time.
Team DSM.
Ooh.
Couple of Aussies in there. Storer coming off a stage win, and his first World Tour win.
And he's leaving the team. He's going to Groupama FDJ for 2
Yeah,
years.
did see that. Interesting move.
Yeah. And Chris the Hurricane Hamilton.
They had a horrible tour, an unbelievable Giro. Unbelievable in terms of, I'm not sure how many stage wins they got, but in terms of just being on the TV and Storer's riding and Hamilton's riding.
Yeah.
I reckon this looks like a pretty stacked team to try and get something out of the Vuelta here. I'm a big fan of their number one here, Keenan Arizman.
Yeah.
Young rider. I reckon he can potentially hold on to a GC group. Bardet again just had that stage win the other day, and then the two Aussies and Martin Schulzfeld. Nice little team.
It is a good team, and I'm really optimistic about Roman Bardet. I think he can really do something. I think Arizman is still just a little bit too young. He was pretty good in the Vuelta last year, but Roman Bardet, as we mentioned before, just recently, his first ever victory outside of Spain. I think this is a team that will be bouncing back from what was a horrendous Tour de France after last year being an awesome Tour de France. I've got pretty high hopes for that team, and Bardet will enjoy being the elder statesman on that team and really trying to lead them and keep them calm on the back of what was a below par tour. But having said all that, I want to see Chris Hamilton and Michael Storer get in a break and ride really selfishly and win one.
Is Storer a chance to be Jai Hindley, Lucas Hamilton, Jack Haig sort of group?
Yes.
Yep.
He and Jai Hindley were toe-to-toe coming up through the juniors in WA and early in the National Road Series. And maybe Jai was just slightly ahead of Michael Storer, but not by a lot. The thing that is unassuming about Michael is he's just really shy.
Yeah.
But it's not a lack of confidence shy. He just doesn't like the limelight, and he doesn't shoot his mouth off at all. He's a quiet achiever. He's really smart as well. He's got interests outside of cycling. He almost got into medicine whilst he was, going over and doing the Junior Worlds, and he just missed out on getting the marks to get into medicine when he finished year 12. He's an impressive young guy, Michael Storer.
If you put them on a scale of kind of the time trial-esque towards the climber, Jai and Lucas are down one end, and he's probably more down towards the strongman climber end. But there was a year where the three of them were in the under-23s racing through Italy, and they were cleaning up. Yeah,
they were for sure.
Euskadi.
It's an exciting time to have Aussie climbers, isn't it?
Yeah,
sort of 5 of them: Ben O'Connor, Hindley, Haig, awesome. Storer.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. So Euskadi, it's good to see the Basque team is back. I assume you'd be happy for me to run you through a few of the riders on this squad, all Spanish team?
Yes, please.
But they're not all from the Basque country. So Luis Angel Mate, his nickname is the Lynx of Andalusia. So he's from the south of the country, and he's always really easy to spot in commentary because he's got one of those plaits, dog-tail plaits things that hang out the back of his head. It's not a good look, but it's part of the culture, I believe, down in Andalusia. And he spent about 10 years riding for the Cofidis squad. Before that, he rode with the Andalusia squad, and he used to get in lots of breakaways. He's definitely past his best, but he'll be a guy that really motivates this team and makes them believe that they belong in the race. They also have one Jose Lobato. Lobato rode a couple of seasons with the Movistar team, and he's not a bad sprinter. He won a stage of the Tour Down Under into Stirling in 2015, and I think he beat Daryl Impey. I reckon he won a stage in the Vuelta Catalunya ahead of Simon Gerrans as well at some point in his career. So he can win those sprints that are slightly uphill. He's not going to challenge Caleb on a flat sprint, but he can win a sprint that is ever so slightly uphill. So I'm looking forward to seeing the orange colours back in a Grand Tour.
It just brings me back to Sammy Sanchez, doesn't it? It's great to see him back.
Yeah, and the guy who was the first ever rider from Euskadi to win a stage in the Tour de France was this guy by the name of Roberto Laiseca. And he won a mountaintop finish at Luzardi then, I think it was in 2001. So that was 20 years ago. He looks younger now than he did then. Like he was just malnourished, and now he's got he's a normal weight in his mid to late 50s. He looks better now than he did when he was racing.
Albertson Phoenix another Australian climber, Max, to maybe add to that list pending. I think add him to that list based off he ran 5th against some of the best climbers in the world at Burgos. Jay Vine's on this list. First Grand Tour. First year pro. It's all happening.
Rode in with Egan the other day. Egan might be off his best, like Matty said, but still a tremendous effort. I had a pretty good Aussie summer, I believe. Or was it this year or the year before, maybe?
Both.
And this team, I'm Alpes and Phoenix. I am head over heels for them, Keno. I am in love with what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's not just the Van der Poel show. That show is pretty good, and he's my favourite rider by a country mile. But there's so much more to it. I was interested with their tour tactics riding for Philipsen, but it ended up they'll probably go with the green jersey, and it made sense. But Philipsen can give him a test. Kayla spoke really well about Philipsen. Said that he was probably the better sprinter out of him and Cav in the tour, and Philipsen just was caught out of luck. So I'll be interested to see what they do, but I'm excited for Jay Vine.
Yeah. So before we get to Jay Vine, just on Philipsen, to close that out, what I really liked, and your view from a sports psych perspective, Max, would be interesting, is he finished 3rd on the stage where Cavendish equaled the record for Eddie Merckx, the stage in the Carcassonne. And they asked him about, what's it like to be part of history and finishing in the top 3 placings when Mark Cavendish equals the record of Eddie Merckx. He said, I didn't come here dreaming of finishing 2nd or 3rd. I came here with my own dreams.
Yeah, and I think that's important, especially what I find from cycling. Footy is a little bit, in Australian culture, you toe the line a little bit more, and you tend to hide your ego a little bit in Australian culture. But I like that in European culture. And I'm a fan of Philipsen. From his Vuelta win last year, he had a really good stage win in the Vuelta last year, which I enjoyed. They've got they've 3 guys who can win sprints. And anyway, give me your Jay Vine.
Yeah, so Jay Vine, if it wasn't for Zwift, this guy would not be in the Pro Peloton, because the window had closed on him in the perspective, I think, of World Tour teams, and COVID prevented him from being able to get over there and get the opportunity to show himself. So he's got this chance as a result of being able to race indoors and do the Zwift Academy. To see him just roll that dice and go, okay, this is my one last shot, and then to get onto the start line with the Alpecin Fenix team and now make the most of it this year, I think is enormous. And on that team, like we saw at the tour, they'll give Jay plenty of opportunities, because even though he can kind of handle himself in a peloton, he's not going to be rubbing shoulders with the lead-out train. He's not going to be part of that group that is helping Jasper Philipsen win a stage. So he can win a stage in the mountains. He can get in the right breakaway. Don't worry about the general classification. And if Jay Vine wins a stage in this Vuelta, the people behind that Zwift Cycling Academy, their heads may well fall off, or they'll melt down, because they will be over the moon.
Interesting what you said about he'll get some freedom. I reckon he might be the only one, because Alpecin do ride down the break a lot.
Yeah, it's true.
They do put riders on the front to ride down the break, but it doesn't seem like that's his strength. So hopefully they'll let him go on the climbs.
Yeah, I hope so. Absolutely. And again, they got famous Belgium name. They got Edward Plancard. There's a great Belgium, Eddie Plancard, who won the Tour of Flanders in '88. He won Paris-Roubaix in 1990. He was a green jersey winner at the Tour de France in '88 as well. And the Plancard name has been around in Belgium cycling since the mid-1960s.
Groupama FDJ. I said Caleb was the only genuine sprint here, but they've got Arnaud Demar on their start list.
I stand by your call, Alex.
Very good, Max. He has to win a stage to save his season.
He has to win something. Unfortunate circumstances around the Tour de France for them, with a stomach bug that ran through the team.
Yeah. But
they still need a win.
So he's been there forever. And it looks like that no matter what happens, he's always going to have a contract at Groupama FDJ. Max, the players get too comfortable sometimes, and they'd be better served to change clubs.
Well, he's also got that flat track bully sort of branding as well, which it's not the best branding to have. I know that you want to be able to beat the best. It could be. Maybe he's comfortable in the French team, comfortable speaking French, comfortable with the lead-out train that he's had for years. Doesn't seem to get in too much trouble when he takes out his whole team with the time cut. So maybe that is something that they potentially FDJ, who have been probably an underperformer as a team, and also Demar probably should part ways at some point. I'm excited about their young climber and Rudy Mollard. I think he can do something.
Yeah, I like him.
I'm not sure what it is, but I think he can do something in the Volta.
Yeah. Yeah. But the Arnaud Demar situation is not going to change anytime soon because Marc Madio treats him like it's his long lost son. And he's got him signed up for another couple of years, I think, until 2023. And they've extended with Miles Scottson recently as well to make sure that he stays there as part of that lead-out train.
It's just the same thing on repeat. It's Thibaut Pinot, David Gaudu, Arnaud Demar. It's just...
Yeah. I'm going to do the same thing as I did last year. I'm going to see if I can get a different result.
Another Frenchman heading up Cofidis, Gil Martin, coming off a top 10 of the Tour.
I wonder what's in his contract, Keno. I have to attend every Grand Tour. Would that be on there?
Because I'm the best chance to win something. I was really happy for him at the Tour de France this year, though, because for the previous few years, he said, I want to finish top 10. I want to finish top 10. And then he ended up finishing 12th and 11th. And this year he went into the Tour. He said, I'm not riding for the GC. I'm just going to go there trying to win a stage. He got himself up to second place overall at one point and ended up finishing in 8th. I'd suggest that he'll be going to this race genuinely not chasing the general classification at all and absolutely chasing a stage victory and quite possibly the King of the Mountains classification.
And last but not least, Team Quebec and Nextash with the resurgence of Fabio Aru.
The resurgence of both the Italians. Pozzovivo as well.
Well, Pozzovivo's never been dead in Cambo's mind. He's always been alive.
He's tipped him top 3 the last 6 times he's ridden.
Fabio Aru is back. That's maybe not back. He's putting himself in the right position though. Second on the GC last week.
He's holding Burgos. Back. I don't think he's going to agree with you here, Alex.
Yeah,
he doesn't look approved.
He's 31. He may as well be 41. It seems like he's older than Alejandro Valverde. He could be fantastic up until stage 18, Alex. But I'm not backing him for 21 stages.
Can you remember how good he was?
Yep, I can remember. He was fantastic. But if something could go wrong, and what I can assure you is in Fabio Aru's mind, it won't be Fabio's fault.
Was it which Grand Tour did he ride this year already? The Giro, was it? And he was just agonizingly sitting like 5 seconds in front of the peloton when he tried to break.
He was listed to ride to his credit actually, he was listed to ride the Tour de France this year, and he said, "No, I'm not ready, so don't take me." So he pulled the pin at the last minute, and I thought that was pretty good. It was the Tour last year. That's right. It was the Tour last year. So he's on, you've nailed it, Max.
Yeah.
He was on UAE. He's got Pogacar on his team and they're all meant to be riding for Tadej. And he decides, it was the day that was won by Astana with Alexei Lutsenko.
Yeah.
And he's attacked, he's off the front and he's 6 seconds in front and he's flapping in the breeze and they're meant to be looking after Tadej. He's got no teammates left, but Fabio's still there. Then he gets caught, bang, and he's out the back door. Fabio's gone. And they get to the finish line and Tadej's in the white jersey and they've gone backstage and they're doing their normal thing. And he doesn't realize that the camera, even though there's no microphone, it's still got a little bit of a microphone and they can pick up what they're actually saying. The Soigneur said to him, what was Aru doing? He goes, Fabio was just being Fabio. Or it was something along those lines. It was kind of like, Pah. And then the next day or the day after that, he's pulled out with fatigue, towards the back end of the first week. And he's meant to be there helping the guy that goes on to win the Tour de France. It was a shocker from Fabio.
And that's the Vuelta team sheets.
Can't wait.
That was good.
Max, do you want to kick us off with your podium?
Yeah, I'm boring, unfortunately. I don't like being boring. We actually did a good tour podium, Keno. We said, let's just take one of the Slovenians out and say they've crashed. and I took out Roglic, so I nailed the crash.
Good.
And I picked the right Ineos rider. I picked Carapaz out of Thomas and Port. So I actually did all right, but I randomly picked David Gaudu to get third, who actually had a good tour.
Yeah, he was good.
I'm going to go Primoz as clear one. I'm going to go one from the three teams. So he's clear one. Carapaz will be the one, not Bernal, at 2. And then Mikel Landa will be 3.
Okay. All right.
Keno?
I think Roglic is going to win it because of the time trial at the end. That could be the difference. I'll go Mikel Landa 2nd and Egan Bernal 3rd.
I don't think you can argue with Pog after his with Brog after his TT at the Olympics.
Come on, Alex.
Out of control.
You can't just
he's
host.
Number 1. He's number 1.
You can't just host and not put your names on podiums.
He's number 1.
Here we go. Lucas Hamilton 1.
Jack Haig 2nd. Kayla
Bjorn
3rd.
Number 2, Landa. I agree. Landa.
Yeah.
I was on him for the Giro and awfully disappointed when he crashed out early. Landa. But I think number 3, I don't think Egan's got it. I think Hugh Carthy's going to put himself on the podium.
Ineos not podium him.
Ineos are not going to podium. They're going to back in Egan. Egan hasn't raced since the Giro hardly. He did a week at Burgos. He's had COVID. And they're going to go stage hunting.
Carapaz has just won the Olympic gold medal.
All right. Now,
yeah, he's cooked from the tour.
Alex,
He's done too much. He's done too much.
If you are incorrect, you have to wear a Bulldogs jumper at one of the finals matches of the AFL this year.
Yeah. Okay. No worries.
The
D's will be winning anyway.
No,
that's all that matters.
All right. Very good.
It's an interesting little top 8. Who knows who's going to get in at the moment?
It is very good. Yeah. All right. Well, I can't wait for the race to get started. It kicks off on Saturday/Sunday morning because it's in Spain. The first rider down the ramp for the opening stage and the time trial is at 5 p.m. Like
a night time trial.
Yeah. That's the first rider. The last rider's down the ramp at about 8 o'clock at night. There was a few years ago where they started for about 6 years in a row with a team time trial. It was one year, the first team down the ramp was at 10 p.m. The last team was at midnight.
I remember a couple of years ago, I came to the Vuelta and saw you there, Keno. We had coffee. And I just wanted details. So I was texting Keno and I said, what time does it start? He goes, anywhere between 2 and 4. I was like, what time do you reckon they'll roll in? He goes, I don't really know, maybe 6, 7, who knows? And then I got in the team car the next day and the same thing. The Mitchelton team are like, we're not sure what time we're going to start. I'm like, you're in the race.
It wasn't us, Max. That's the beauty of the Spanish culture. I turned up to the hotel one time. We got back to the hotel a little earlier than anticipated. We got there about 10:15. Checked in, gone to my room, put my stuff down, used the facilities, come back downstairs at 10:30. I've walked into the restaurant in the hotel and they said, we weren't expecting you this early. Dinner won't be ready until like 11 p.m. at the earliest. Like, you've got to travel with muesli bars so you can have some dinner and just go to bed.
Yeah. Does that mean we're in for some late or early mornings, late nights, Keno?
It's only that one is at ridiculous o'clock. Only the first one is ridiculous. The rest of them will be finished. Stages will be finishing about the same time as Tour de France stages.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Keno. Great to have you on board. Enjoy the next 3 weeks. Maxie, don't watch too much the next 3 weeks because we need some big performances out of the Demons coming.
I watch it over breakfast anyway, so I do it the reverse way.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.